Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're capturing the absolute essentials of traveling through Albania in 8 minutes or less. So, if you're looking for a destination that literally completely defies expectations, you are in exactly the right place. But right off the bat, before we get to the gorgeous scenery, we've got to address the elephant in the room about the Western Balkans. I mean, if you mention you're planning a trip to Albania, the very first question people almost always ask is, wait, is it actually safe? It's a country that, has carried this really heavy reputation for a long, long time. To give you an idea of just how stubborn these stereotypes are, the author of our source guide was actually warned by an EU border guard before their trip that Albanians, quote, shoot first and ask questions later. I mean, wow, that is an incredibly intense and frankly terrifying warning to get right as you're kicking off a journey, right? Well, let's look at the actual reality on the ground. When you contrast that dark, violent stereotype with what's actually there, it is night and day. The truth is, instead of danger, travelers consistently find themselves lounging on the stunning beaches of the Albanian Riviera, just totally surrounded by some of the warmest, most welcoming people in all of Europe. The locals have this deep, genuine curiosity and an optimism that just translates into world-class hospitality. It is a far, far cry from what the detractors claim.
Okay, let's dive into this. Today we're looking at unspoiled natural wonders, a layered, complex history, rich culture and cuisine, and finally, some essential travel tips.
So, starting with part 1, unspoiled natural wonders.
To really wrap our heads around the sheer geographical diversity of this country, which, by the way, is flanked by both the Adriatic and Ionian Seas, let's take a quick mental trip from north to south. Up at the top, you've got the soaring, snow-capped Albanian Alps, which are also very dramatically known as the Accursed Mountains. Then, moving down through the vibrant center around the capital city of Tirana, you eventually hit the magnificent Albanian Riviera in the south, and that's the area famous for those tantalizingly turquoise waters. This brilliantly illustrates the extreme geographic contrasts you can experience in just a single trip. You could be hiking the incredibly rugged Valbonne to Thef mountain trail, pushing through dense pines and towering 1,800-meter peaks, and then, almost effortlessly, transition to the expansive, deep blue Adriatic coastline near Diris. The beauty of Albania is that you don't have to choose between a hardcore alpine adventure and a relaxing coastal retreat, because you can easily just do both.
Moving on to part 2, a layered, complex history. To actually understand this dramatic landscape, we absolutely have to look at the people and the empires who built upon it over the millennia. Sitting right at the crossroads between Rome and Constantinople, Albania has been shaped by a staggering 4,000 years of history. It all begins with the ancient Illyrians, who are Albania's ethnic ancestors, along with the Romans who left behind these massive amphitheaters. Then a huge shift happens with 527 years of Ottoman Empire rule. And finally, we have the stark modern era defined by a really strict communist dictatorship spanning from 1944 to 1992. And every single one of these vastly different eras left a permanent, highly visible mark on the country.
Let's take a look at how all that history actually translates into the architecture. Take Berat, for example, which is a UNESCO-listed museum city. Now, while those 5 centuries of Ottoman rule aren't exactly always remembered fondly by the locals, they did leave behind some absolutely incredible architecture. When you see those tightly packed white villas with their illuminated wooden windows just climbing up the hillside, you are literally looking at a perfectly preserved snapshot of 18th and 19th century Ottoman life. But here's the thing. Modern Albania simply cannot be understood without acknowledging its most recent and frankly darkest historical chapter, the communist era from 1944 to 1992. The dictatorship of Enver Hoxha brought immense isolation and this deeply painful trauma that impacted quite literally every single aspect of the country's economy and society.
So the crucial point here is how this era physically scarred the landscape itself. Check out this number, 175,000. That is the estimated number of concrete military bunkers constructed by what became an increasingly paranoid regime. And today, they still scatter the Albanian landscape. I mean, they are everywhere, from the high mountain passes right down to the beaches, serving as these completely unavoidable reminders of that hyper-isolationist period.
What's amazing, though, is how today Albanians are actively turning these dark historical sites into vital places of learning. There's this beautiful brick building covered in vibrant green ivy called the House of Leaves in Tirana. It looks super quaint, but actually, it was a former secret police and espionage headquarters. Now, it serves as this incredibly powerful museum, offering travelers some very crucial historical context about living under a surveillance state.
All right, let's shift gears to part 3, rich culture and cuisine.
Stepping out of the shadow of its dark history, modern Albania has this surprisingly vibrant, just wonderfully optimistic local life, and a food scene that is truly exploding right now. Albanian gastronomy is on a massive upswing. The pillars of their cuisine are deeply rooted in fresh, hyperlocal ingredients. Countryside agrotourism is absolutely booming, offering these incredible, genuine farm-to-table menus. You'll find yourself eating delicious kofte. Those are these perfectly spiced meatballs. Or dipping fresh bread into fergeze, which is this rich, savory red pepper and ricotta dip. Oh, and they are total masters of spit-roasted lamb. Plus, you absolutely cannot skip the drinks. Local Albanian wines and the completely ubiquitous fruit brandy known as raki are seriously making a name for themselves on the international stage.
Now, what's really interesting here is that the creation of these delicious traditional local cheeses, which you'll often see boiling away in these huge metal vats, is actually directly tied to a massive countrywide migration event that happens every single year. That event is called transhumance. It's the traditional biannual migration of shepherds and their massive, massive flocks between the upland mountains and the lowland pastures. It's actually a UNESCO-protected tradition, and honestly, you might even get caught in it, like a literal traffic jam of sheep. But this practice is so important. It sustains rural communities, preserves the natural grazing areas, and it's the secret behind incredibly unique local cheeses like Mishavina.
Let's bring it home with part 4, essential travel tips. For all you focused learners out there eager to pack your bags, here's the nuts and bolts practical advice you need to navigate the country smoothly. Public transport relies heavily on furgons. Those are shared minibuses that famously operate without strict schedules. Seriously, they just leave whenever they're full. And while they're a super authentic way to travel, if you want the ultimate freedom to just go explore hidden beach coves, renting a vehicle is definitely your best bet. Packing-wise, the geography really demands layers. You're going to want to bring solid hiking boots for that slippery alpine terrain and warm clothes because those mountain nights get very cold. But most importantly, if a local invites you for a coffee or a drink, absolutely accept it. That world-class hospitality is a core tenet of Albanian culture.
And finally, I have to share this absolutely crucial and kind of surprising cultural quirk, mostly just to save you from some very confusing dinner conversations. In traditional Albanian nonverbal communication, nodding your head up and down actually means no, and shaking your head side to side means yes. Now, while it's becoming a bit less common thanks to modern globalization, it's still a vital piece of body language to keep in mind so you don't accidentally turn down a delicious plate of food. So, what does this all mean? Well, Albania is truly an unspoiled European gem, perfectly balancing wild natural beauty with a profound layered history and incredibly resilient, welcoming people. By taking the time to understand its past and really embrace its local customs, you are pretty much guaranteed an unforgettable adventure. So, will your next European getaway be to the continent's most misunderstood country? If you enjoyed this, subscribe to In 8 Minutes and never miss what matters.